virus, crisis, protest, conflict.
We have predators. We have predators. We have predators. We have predators on our streets.
If I were the devil. If I were the devil. If I were the devil. Don't look in the basement.
It was a sacrifice to prove allegiance to Satan.
If I were the devil. Throw a dart. Which of these universes are you most likely to hit?
Virus, crisis, protest, conflict.
If I were the devil. Look in the basement. Look in the basement. Look in the basement.
The government tells us what we can teach and what we can't teach.
Don't you realize that when you turn a people upside down and inside out, then sell them?
We have predators on our streets.
There is a certain class of race problem solvers who don't want the patient to get well.
Walls are a little higher now. Steel bars are a little stronger now. These conversations with myself start to draw crowds now. How the hell am I supposed to get out? I walk circles 7 times aligned in hopes to call upon and find Christ. I chalked thoughts, constructed divine designs, palaces, steeples, cathedrals, safe houses for lost souls to hide, pictures to live into planetary canvas. Can this tide the tightrope to balance the tides where fiction finds thought in mind confined within the boundaries of obscurity, laws of gravity, inalienable rights and lies we told children, forgotten by time, killed by wasted hours, deadly minutes, precious seconds, and third eyes demonized by cracked cataracts, stabbed by delusional images and blurred visions. I blinked for too long and lost you and found me running from myself, something I felt but not for long enough. Shortcomings, your homeland is a checkerboard, human being game piece instead of being themselves, becoming something else. Someone else sold them, then sold all of you the idea of simple poets writing about division. Add nothing. Started seeing rappers put on their own chains. Their DJs Picked up flutes, produced hypnotic beats fused into soundtracks heard through hallways and schools. Watch these fools, they wanna be just like you, but they don't know you. Still trying to find themselves within the walls of a system that doesn't freely welcome change until it can be used to keep all of you exactly where they want you. Individuality is a remake, replicas of once originals under the influence of undercover agents of the state. Mind control, self-hate, subliminal, instigate, initiate, gentrificate, stronghold, controlled, remold criminal into hero. Just stop thinking, but look at that dance, but look at the percentage master gets. No freestyle on the master track. Who's singing on that track? On train tracks, they got caught now on the side of the road, prettying up the scenery and making more road with nowhere to go. No home, no foundation, only broken souls with misspoken voices. They singing in code, screaming for change, for underground train stations. Change the station. No matter how you paint the pain, song remains the same. Old man on the street holding up a cup of jingling change was once a young man in jingling chains. New man proudly displayed on stage, putting on his own chains. Once that old man was displayed on a stage in the same kind of chains, then sold for change and taken away. His future auctioned off, his legacy remembered, revised, retold, re-edited, now reenacted. Once we surpassed this, so why can't we get past this? Whose past is this? Now the past is today. Hope and change, ropes and chains, sold for change, stole some chains, now back and change the channel. Different setting, same story. He tried to tell his but suffered from writer's block. Individual thoughts on an auction block. Change the station. The revolution was televised, but evolution will be kept off the air. Catch breath, deeper than depth, louder than death. Television sets traps for dreamers with programs about not being free till they believe in it. I am fiction, god of the ants, ruling an invisible planet. No more strange than old man that thinks he's running the country, never walking in our shoes. Just a con man confused, a yes man that won't refuse. Another reason for us to sing the blues. Just super flexible like silly putty. They got those old bones contorted like Picasso paintings and stick figure doodles on desk in the Oval Office. Get me off this game board. Why rest in peace only to live in war? Let's balance out this script of characters portraying caricatures. Change the station. Once others closed eyes and looked away. Now they watch every moment. Now they close minds to different narratives, covering ears, opposing voices, illiterate to any other's word. Only those most absurd deliver the message. Lost in translation, lost in a bottle. The downfall of sobriety, rebirth of the irrational. Logic replaced with raw emotion. Hot temper trapped inside of a burning building. City in chaos. Yesterday's oppressor encourages more of this kind of behavior, preventing restoration of desperately to be forgotten broke down palaces of poverty, blocking achievement, stopping success from reaching too far into this community. Ill-gotten powers that be, mocking anyone that overcomes and sets themselves free. Ill-gotten powers that be, gotta keep making these sheep angry, gotta keep acting like they care. Soon to criminalize the same heavily addictive substance they once pushed under the guise of saving lives. But by criminalizing the same heavily addictive substance they once pushed under the guise of saving lives, they are criminalizing those same lives overnight. Those in the shadows take notes, hijacked countercultural movements, spread anti-Western propaganda, sent out others to enrage the actual patriots. Media played he said, she said, both sides being assembled and strategically placed. Other sides started to arise. Now shit flies from every side. Destruction of faith, pride, family, and so on. Sheltering the lawless, doxing the innocent. Something is spreading from mindset to mindset, doing its best to prevent unity from ever occurring. Citizens mowing down officers with automobiles. A malicious media causes a trained public to feel for the lawless they portray as the true victim. None of us truly understand what's going on, but we sit here creating memes. We sit here with knee-jerk reactions. We sit here speaking of something that we are too stubborn to admit we don't understand, too scared to admit we don't know what's going on. We must resist this allegiance. We must question this administration that is against peace but wearing its mask. Be wary of the days to come. Keep vigilant. There is a lot of good out there, but there is also a lot of good that is being manipulated into thinking that their own brothers and sisters are against them. They are using color, lifestyle, mindset, anything they can gain control of. Sheep led astray in these states of decay. Do not fall onto the game board. Do not become a part of their miniature war. Do not mold yourself into one of their tiny plastic soldiers. Fight back by not fighting. Us lunging at each other's throats is exactly what they want. Be forewarned. Show them we are stronger than this. We seem to live in a world where dead loved ones become winning lottery tickets. Only the best funeral, but not always the best life. Love in past tense. Turn off the TV.
You wanna play? Let's play!
If we have to, I will gag you in 1
A
second.
9-year-old boy accused of murder and arson appeared in an Illinois
was fully aware of what this baby, who was not even 6 months old, endured. He endured abuse, multiple broken bones.
charged with attempted murder.
He wasn't crazy when he killed my son, man. He wasn't crazy then, but he crazy now.
And I'm worried about you. No, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Fictitious problems. Staged conflicts. Senseless battles. Endless fights. Imaginary wars. All televised. Those truly enlightened have decided to abandon all battle stations and skip to the chapter after Revelation. These programmers, these pro-gamers, these United Nations, time to stop bowing down to drug czars with 3-letter abbreviations. Time to change that inner filter and deliver messages with honesty that defy corporate greed and special interest needs, especially when they don't specially interest you or me. What the media needs: a lie detector, a cult defector, an antagonist deflector, brighter reflectors, the oncoming headlights to be used when we are being led the wrong way to avoid easily preventable tragedies that we unapologetically get thrown into so endlessly. We are forced back inside only to live through our TVs, reshaping the lines we read in between only to see through someone else's lens. Abandoning what's in front of us, adopting what's unknown to us. We only cry when they tell us to. We only fight who they want us to. Playing rock, paper, scissors with Constitution Shave taught us to trade in freedom a false sense of security. Paper bag test, measuring self-worth through skin degree. Limelight status, phony sympathy. You're not ending racism as long as you're being taught to hate me. That's just another ism to imprison all of us mentally. Enslaved by big government supremacy. Both sides teaching us to be enemies. All channels preaching to us about unity. Hold the same panel, greatening the distance of the divide between you and me. A man's worth, by spirit or wealth. Both read in God we trust, so how are we being taught to worship man and abandon the first? Our history is once again being rewritten. They are strengthening their armor while they use us for target practice after they've already invited us in. True police brutality will not be seen on TV. How you gonna call an orange the blues? I gave up trying to impress others once they started showing off their chains. I gave up trying to conversate once every conversation became the same. We boast of our freedoms. We scream we got rights. They laugh as they tell us that they make the rules. We turned in the key. Soon as we turned on the TV, before we turned into our beds, we raised tiny screens to our heads, forever being fed, taught to believe in fairy tales just before slumber, forgetting names, remembering numbers. What's the password? Far too many to find the actual one that will grant us entrance to a way out. There is no justice. Law is a business. Timeless sacrifices to mortals calling themselves gods. This will not fully cleanse your soul. You will never silence the beast as long as you feed them. Yesterday you hunt and bleed them. Today you say you lead them. They've adopted your language, which means they can speak for themselves. How do you believe in equality when you treat your own brothers and sisters like pets? How do zombies march for the dead? When did loved ones only become loved after their last breath? Why is it when you speak, another man's words seem to come out? If we are all in this together, then why do we divide ourselves into so many groups? The same man that once jailed your father is now being idolized by you. Trying not to be shot. Trying to get a shot. Trying to silent voices of the past, of memories of unrevised histories, reminding some of us with better memory of eugenics and Tuskegee and broken promises and burning teepees and an ancestor's screams and American dreams being sold to bad men during secret meetings of secret societies, creating secret messages for sleeper cells, ambitious actors for tomorrow's theater. Schedule to be announced after first act of terror. Anyone who questions their first and last performance to be ostracized by their peers. Teachers will help you to memorize, but not to think too much anyways, unless it's about everyday things like how to make someone else rich, how to discipline your kids, how to snap that whip, how to exist yet not live, how to be the perfect pessimist in the perfect disguise, make up identity, laws of decency, only to gather in the streets for someone else, but never stand up for yourself unless you sit down when you are told to. Who sold you? Who sold you to who? Who became the old you, and what does the new you have to say? Mimicking man on the news like, you know what I think? That's just what happens. What can we do about it anyways? Sending workers back to factories to make their own chains, then assemble the robots that will send them back home in a day. We allowed political differences to tear down a wall and build us a cage and pay another man's bill who gave us back a little change, for which we gave praise, till another bill came, and another bill came, and another bill came, and now we work harder today for a little less change. What kind of change is this anyways? Hope and chains, more like ropes and chains. Invisible barriers we know not to cross, only going as far as we are allowed, until the day we remember who we are and forget why we fight, debate, and hate over unnecessary petty things, until we see the nightmare they paint was just a ghost story to be told by the flames, while they poured gasoline from a safe distance, then claimed we were the ones to blame. We may have not started this fire, but here's some water. No longer bloodthirsty. A spirit calm and at peace.
As we make the world healthier, 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 as we make the world healthier.
Syphilis was a cultural embarrassment.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
People. Cultural embarrassment.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
People. Cultural embarrassment.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it? just go ahead and do it?
People should get vaccinated
to participate in the experiment.
People, as we make the world healthier.
Nearly all of them were poorly educated, impoverished sharecroppers.
From Tuskegee.
Deplorables.
As we make the world healthier.
There's no evidence of death for this vaccine yet. Certainly, when Pfizer released their clinical trial information, the adverse events were reported. There was nothing serious. I'll go on and say there were deaths in the clinical trial.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
4 participants in the Pfizer vaccine trial and 4 participants in Moderna's trial did experience Bell's palsy, which in its simplest form causes the face to droop.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
In Pfizer's trial, all 4 participants who experienced Bell's palsy received the COVID vaccine.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
As we make the world healthier.
However, in Moderna's trial, 3 participants who experienced Bell's palsy got the vaccine, 1 got the placebo. Dr. Elizabeth Ransom with Baptist Health says that should not deter anyone from getting the vaccine.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
And so what we need to do is take this age generosity and this innovation and go into those places, offer the women better tools where they want to space birthing or have a smaller family size.
We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate.
Why don't you just go ahead and do it?
As we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible?
What they really did is they showed what our system is built on, which is that our system is just so vulnerable to influence by competing financial and other misguided influences. And those influences, they lead into these crazy actions that we can't make sense of.
People should get vaccinated.
We love watching lions in the Coliseum. We pretend to care about their victims. Then we group together and pretend to be affected by what we just witnessed. Although we dream of being the lion. We act like savages after being phony outraged by such brutality. We want others to believe that we are different, but we are the same species. We are no better than beasts. Our tears are worthless, our message is wordless. We pretend to be only who they say we are. The dead that you mourn for are the same that you aimed for. Dear hunter, that was the deer. You was the hunter. Notebooks were put together by prisoners who couldn't spell notebooks. In mines, Mika was picked by small children without makeup or glossy skin. Blood diamonds were birthed by those who only wore rusted shackles, same chains their children dipped in platinum. New ways to enslave their own people. New wave pop sensation changed the station. This is the sequel to all spirituals. Souls collected in cathedrals, awakening truths being buried in books. But who reads these days? Who reads anything other than text and words under memes? I am an author unseen, an unauthorized version of a pop artist not seen on TV, only in life as the blue-collared worker, judged by strangers, pretending to be good people, pretending to be my master, pretending to be humanitarians, acting like those acting on TV. Reality is a strange place to those that stroll so far from it. Fantasy gives life meaning until bubbles are popped. Emptiness is inevitable until we become ourselves. Actors are lost in scripts from abandoned projects, starting to project hallucinations of immortality until overdose occurs. Overwhelmed, electric fences for social butterflies, halos for good souls lost in isolation. This is for the gods I haven't met yet, haven't become yet. Our life is limited by a world that is afraid to let go of control. Grab the remote and channel actual existence. Repetition is for the circle. Replication found in the box, all out of shape. A living design, learning how to redefine, how to read the signs, symbolism of signs, deep meaning without shallow thinking, fall asleep dreaming, rise and follow what's remembered after waking up and breaking up with shackles and making up with lost freedom, mental wars with think tanks. Victory is thought out of the box and into a new day. Never walked on water, have only drowned in stones and resurfaced, awaiting no one's approval. A rebirth.
Under attack, Israel's Air Force unleashes devastation on the Gaza Strip. On the ground in one of the world's most densely populated areas, it's a gruesome scene.
Imagine being born just outside the walls of the Promised Land. Soon after entering this world, you begin to see through two bullseyes, witnessing airstrikes by strangers you never met that claim you've attacked them. A large portion of the earth can only see through TV and hear through earbuds that drown out live sound. Premeditated existence written by the most generous donators. Who owns these narratives? Who owns your life story? Told who you are by those that sold your family into exile, only to use one or two of those loved ones for photo ops to be edited into segments to persuade those with hearts to hate just before they are thrown back to the lions. And if you speak, they will mistranslate your language, turn up the volume, and replace your cries for help with cries for war. Cries of the poor ignored unless they can be transformed for a warlord's benefit. Fighting back is not a terrorist act. Can't save the trees while swinging that axe, while blindfolded and being led away from facts. Propaganda, polarization, manipulation, psychological warfare, subliminal mental combat. The sky cry blues. The city screamed in fire. The news only confused. Told you what they wanted. Showed you what they needed. Silenced spoken truth. Divided a once united youth. A country hacked. A virus has deleted truth.
This Palestinian policeman prepares for his end. An area holy to Jews and Muslims alike. Some of the worst violence. More than 300 Palestinians were injured, along with 21 Israeli police.
I have requested this opportunity to talk to the people of Massachusetts about the tragedy which happened last Friday evening.
I came from here, going that way. When I
get
here, I hear the tires screaming, wee, like that, wee, like that, wee, like that.
about the tragedy about the tragedy about the tragedy about the tragedy.
This guy here. Then I don't know how somehow he twists around. All I hear.
I have requested this opportunity.
That's the only thing I can do. But all I see
about the tragedy.
It's a white guy. All I hear. All I hear. All I hear.
This morning I entered a plea of guilty to the charge of leaving the scene of an accident.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people.
We feel very sorry for the innocent people that were killed in the United States of America. But Iraq has nothing to do with these events.
On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
People began to feel that Iraqi people are the leader of this monster who wants to destroy the whole world. Actually, the real monster is America itself.
20 years ago, we didn't want to believe in the betrayal of our own government. We wanted to believe in their honesty. Many held no questions, only demanded action. We wanted revenge, and somehow we believed we are the only nation on earth that ever deserved it. Hypocrites by nature, followers by choice. We have a voice but can't find the words. We speak over everyone else and haven't said a damn thing. The news is delivering our ignorance instant bad guys. Funny how much different they looked on TV. Funny how they edited what they selected for us to see. Funny how we call ourselves free. Funny how we bleed for the powers that be. Human fucking chess. I remember on the 11th morning of September, turning on the news, watching that plane hit over and over, watching that building come down over and over, watching people jump out windows over and over, watching those in the shadows take over, showing Palestinians celebrating, only they aired archive footage from back in the Iraq War, only they forgot about the time difference, only they created more rabbit holes to keep us off their trail. Our nation was angry, desperate, confused, saddened, ready for war. They used this for their benefit. We were going after peasants for the crimes of their government. Our government was going after our citizens. Young adults seized from their homes, interrogated. We voted in laws that sounded like lawmakers cared about us. Laws that would later haunt us. Laws we only read the titles of. These serpents were obtaining more global power. Our government had been training our attackers. Our people were celebrating over the deaths of 1 million foreigners and mourning over 2,000 of ours. It's only acceptable to cry when they tell us to. 20 years ago, we were being divided, conditioned, conquered, distracted, extracted from our shell of freedom. Mentally imprisoned, physically imprisoned. Same way the British had divided many before. Mythmakers writing our story, and we live like we are alive, although so far from it. They've made our victims the boogeyman, only to support the true villains, leading us through years of deceit and heartbreak, spinning the wheel of premature fate of flag wavers, anti-war demonstrators, agitators, patriots, loyalists, racists, humanists. A loved one's death equals bait. Emancipate from their control by turning off the TV and finding someone that they labeled your enemy and getting to really know them. Then, coming to understand that strangers on TV were telling us how to feel after they were told what to tell us by others. Myth makers, government operatives, big business, those with agendas. We can tell this story 1,000 more times, and still so many will claim they never heard it. Vowed to always remember, learned to forget. We have been trained to hate the wrong people. We watched actors on TV that bastardize what we should have paid attention to. And here we are, years later, either completely oblivious, thoughtless, or so in tune that we can't stop thinking. We can't stop seeing what they said was never there. We were believing selected truths through edited views through a cracked looking glass of the past. The Patriot Act, a domestic terror act in form of blindfolds, laws, seized liberties, and face mask. The smoke has never cleared. The big picture, a smoke screen filtered by gossip of scandalous celebrities, trendy dinner recipes, and movies delivering their scripts to us, for us to live in their image and destroy ours. Behind bars, stars, and stripes, and Reichs of new world order altered to look like necessary action discussed in secret meetings where new wars are plotted and new leaders are elected before campaigns.
And hold you in the palm of his hand.
20 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, countryman lost, stranger in a strange land. Not what I thought to be true, not the land I once knew. I'm not the man I once knew. Watching demolition of every sacred truth, knowing not a damn thing except we've been lied to, tried to make us hate others that we never knew. Careful not to partake, the next target might be you. Race, religion, party, affiliation, not what makes us us. Television tells a vision what to see. Gave a clear sky the blues, gave a pacifist a gun, gave a desert a blood-red sea, gave someone a reason to go to war, which only created more wars. Looking back, what were we fighting for? Invisible enemies, blind snipers, treated like buffalo, thinning out the herd, which was a threat to occupiers, deniers of new holocausts. Dare not shed a tear across that border. Coyotes run rampant and freedom is scarce. And 20 years ago, we didn't want to believe in the betrayal of our own government. And 20 years ago, we didn't believe in UFOs. Times change, back into past. Look towards the future, but not through their looking glass. Let the rabbit run. Close the door to Wonderland and come home. We don't need another war, and they don't need another trespasser trying to save them through a stranger's tale, for they have their own story. It's time for us to tell our own.
To disarm Iraq, to free its people.
We feel very sorry for the innocent people that were killed in the United States of America. But Iraq has nothing to do with these events at all. Iraq is seeking for peace.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations.
U.S. politicians who lied to continue the war, including Biden and his predecessors, should face criminal charges. And
I will not be silent.
63 of them were children. The vast majority non-combatants. They killed 7 members of the same family huddled in their home. They killed 42 civilians, including 10 children.
Nothing more despicable.
Nothing to answer for.
Homeland.
No pressure to stop.
Homeless.
No accountability.
Domestic. Diaspora. Homeland. Homeless. Domestic. Diaspora.
I'm just a kid.
Homeland, homeless, domestic, diaspora. Homeland, homeless.
But it's really rightfully ours if you look at the history and at like the wars, and we didn't even start a lot of the wars. We conquered these places rightfully, like it's ours.
Witnessing stars falling from grace, drowning in puddles of vodka spittle, on the run from themselves, accepting every role except their own. Not an idiot, but he plays one on TV. True identity, mastermind, the apocalypse. Everyone has their price, a quote made in China. Newsworthy top stories of Twitter battles, blame games, and empty gas tanks versus almighty think tanks in this great mental war. Laced with propaganda and self-doubt. A warrior that doubts himself is easily defeated. A goddess that sells herself is no longer worshipped. A child raised in fear will never leave their cage. From one cage to another cage, taught to be afraid of freedom. Their communities are surrounded by gates. They protest walls. They lock their doors. By justice for all, they mean only them, not those that mow their grass, pray differently, cook their meals, or polish their windows glass. We are a lost species, trapped in infancy. Safety blankets, say you love me, screaming for mommy. A man failing to answer for his faults. A city, her sleeper cells. TV, the alarm clock. A fire burned your home. You did your enemy's work for them. The foolish pride of a blind man. Suicide of countryman. He who invites invasion. Welcoming enslavement. Face down on the pavement. Sit down, turn on the station. Their program will program you to tell us exactly how you feel. Comfortably numb as long as there's a connection with machines, not people. How are you for the people? I was before the people that believe they are owed something for nothing while their masters are never happy. Rethink today's education system. Relearn barterism. Eating natural, living synthetic, becoming real by fictitious means. Nothing as it seems. You scream about being free while the coordinates of your life map out a tight bordered existence. You speak of other worlds but never been to space. Your dialogue was heard before through someone else's voice. The devil whispered in your ear, and by obediently following his instructions, you helped enslave your own people from fear of facing your own mortality. When confronted with conflicting truth, you made an excuse for their betrayal. Fosse see, monkey do. Simon says, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Mask on, mask off your fucking mouth. They're fucking with you and you come dry. There is no compassion, there is no love, only a lust for more control. Loved ones held at gunpoint had the power to save them, but decided to pull the trigger. Seconds later, tweeted about your accomplishments. The world is sick, the anecdote is disease. Destroyed all one stood for, now living on our knees. Overconfident but under the whip. Someone tried to break down your door and you invited them in. Blood banks for vampires, riverbeds of martyrs. A poor man's misfortune pays for a stranger's meal. A story about yesterday, a history once again to change. Remastering the slave and labeling yourself his liberator. Homeland, homeless, domestic, diaspora. Homeland, homeless, domestic, diaspora. Homeland, homeless, domestic, diaspora.
You would be crying to the Palestinians.
We tell tales of lions and deny truth. Domestic. We make small talk about situations we have no true understanding of. We talk about real people like they were characters in sitcoms. We talk about ideas that contain no original thought. We light the candles for a stranger's visual, yet refuse to attend a loved one's funeral because they didn't think like us. Many of us don't think like us. Many of our thoughts not thought by us. Memorizing scripts fed to us. This is that shit that disconnects us, divides us, subtracts us, asks us to kill our identity until we learn to be against us. The seizure of freedom was not at gunpoint. It was told to us through tantalizing tales written with passion, written by romantics we fell in love with. Bad ideas. We made legends out of horrible people. We killed our own dreams with their nightmares. Stories told in circles around fire. Earth circles the same fire. Enraged citizens set communities on fire. Encouraged by stories on TVs that replace these campfires.
I can't even do anything this morning.
A child is screaming as no one is listening. Abandoned adolescents, badly parented by strangers they've never met. A man with a badge wears the blues of a man in a cage, dehumanized, soon to once again walk the streets as a stray. A hungry animal unequipped to survive within unfamiliar new surroundings. In factory he makes a lot for a little. The little he is given is taken by the system. One mistake generates great interest. Other madmen of today run free tomorrow, laughing at slaves of petty misdemeanors, trapped in rackets, enforced by public servants, practicing freedom without permission and living up to your utmost potential, seen as a threat to this society, obsessed with the power of control, overrun by loopholes, debts, and traps set by lazy-eyed pirates in suits, forced to run on tightropes, halfway through scissors and hedge clippers, a dying hope lifelessly swinging from tied ropes. In God we trust, in man we become unable to trust. This design, blind third eyes, conquers destinies and exercises spirits, replacing dreams with routine, thought with memorization. Some of those memories that help us see, revised until we forget the past, bring it back and forge historical documents with illiteracy and misinterpretation, misrepresented and bastardized, be our birthrights taken by self-appointed saviors, delivering us to lesser gods below. Standing directionless at the crossroads, mistaking static for the Lord, reading in between the lines of the horizon as a setting sun blurs the lines between dreams and time, unable to define any of it. How many more days until we kill the sun?
I'm just a kid.
I refuse any longer to be intimidated.
Immediately designated every man, woman, and child in Gaza hostile. And therefore, everything a legitimate target.
I can't even do anything this morning. I just want to be a doctor or anything to help my people, but I can't. I'm just a kid. I don't even know what to do. I get scared, but not really that much. I do anything for my people, but I don't know what to do. I'm just 10. I'm just 10.
In the name of Jesus, you be made whole by the power of God. Fuck you, that same glory right now. I'm not ashamed of the Holy Ghost, folks. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not ashamed of the Holy Ghost.
Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust. Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust.
They begin to speak with other tongues. And darling, don't you think that's not unusual? That is an unusual response.
Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust. Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust. Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust. Someone says they're just like us. That's someone we're gonna trust. Someone says they're
just
here.
like
Americans
us.
are sick and tired of being
That
lied to
someone
and not being
we're
listened to.
gonna
They're also
trust.
unhappy about
Someone
the fact
says
that there's
they're
seemingly
just
no
like
desire
us.
to fix an
That
election system that clearly has
someone
problems.
we're gonna
Crybaby
trust.
liberals continue
Someone
to freak out over
says they're
President-elect
just like
Donald Trump's
us.
huge victory.
That someone
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Someone says they're just like us.
This is
That
extremely dangerous
someone
to our democracy. This is
we're
extremely
gonna
dangerous
trust.
to our democracy.
No
This is
more
extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
But for anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation.
Cell phones become wireless remote controls for obedient servants. A hands-free GPS that will choose your destination for you. One nation should never choose another nation's leader for them. A sheep should never lead a pack of wolves and believe it will be safe. A TV should never tell us what to think of strangers. Those that watch TV believe themselves to be completely informed on foreign situations. They carry the contagion of spreading propaganda. Those refusing to kneel have already taken the knee for another. In a world of presidential puppets, followers, and mad queens, be the dragon and fly free. Fly the flag in disbelief. No one respects it anyways. Look at all those pictures are drawing on it. Never fall so much in love with an idea that you cannot question it. Just the idea of a man will not change the elements, the remnants, the consequence of his previous actions overlooked by his forever faithful followers.
You are being lied to.
If you believe in freedom, then practice it. If there is a question, then ask it. If there's no reception, then learn to decode static. There are no secret societies if they have all been told. There is no more Illuminati since it changed its name once again. Breadcrumbs for parakeets that speak only to repeat another's absurd ramblings. Now, directionless and dependent, relying upon the mercy of he who preys upon them as they pray to him. Beware false prophets. There is a sick game people play. It's called Look the Other Way. Distractions entertain, paint over pain. Close your eyes to genocide. They tell us lies televised, tell us when to laugh or cry, but what about the other side? Everything looks different when it's televised. Everything looks different when it's right before you. We have been conditioned to preach with love yet thirst for blood. A damaged species led by the weak hiding behind the rest of the herd. A diabolical masterpiece, every puzzle piece another civilian casualty. Man, woman, child, no life story, no identity. Sister, mother, brother, lover, just another number. CIA operations, the recruitment of world-renowned terrorists mentally manipulating their own people, and Jim Jones was given just enough time, and Charles Manson just died in prison, and I don't excuse either, and we fight for human rights, and we side with those that violate them, and they say never again, and they make it happen again, and children shot for throwing rocks will always be more of a man than than the brainwashed soldier that shot them. And we cry about stores running out of our favorite ice cream and employees not smiling enough. And we work like slaves and call ourselves elites. We call others savages as we act like savages. A man trying to protect his family murdered alongside them, remembered only as a threat. A man that murders on the highway because another driver failed to signal left. A man argues over the price of beef. Another tries to ration 1 cooler of water for a household of 16. A man goes hungry. On his right, a Wendy's. On his left, a Burger King. Passerbys try not to look, not to listen. Walks a little faster than seeks recognition for public donations to corrupt charities run by hustlers exploiting suffrage. Television sets instructions for the unknowing. If viewers start to ask questions, new movies and scandals, petty stories of name-calling and smear campaigns, politics, the candy, voter, the unwanted fat kid. And some of you will have a problem with that comparison, calling it body shaming, calling it insensitive, failing to see common addiction matched with one's own prejudice, swinging from strings in a land of scissors, walking on eggshells mixed with razor blades, failing life's tests, cheating death by living lives that those that died for us should have had. Betrayed survivors deserve much more than a simple thank you for your service. Speaking of human shields, let's talk about televised persuaders of popular opinion and their millions of viewers ready to kill strangers as a writer's pen gets used as a sword by illiterate simple men and women calling themselves queens, remaking themselves whores. We are but replicas of human beings conjoined to pocket-sized screens, synthetic existence, prosthetic thought, biogenetic strength, defects of thoughtless thinkers, repeaters of talking points, poster children of the post-apocalypse. The after-future is now. Alert to surroundings, vigilant around others, silent around those I don't know. A people empowering the powerless. Many only resist in tweets and on post. Many only fight with an upvote. Believers used to await the second coming, replaced by one man every 4 years. Lost, forgotten, one of the same. Telling the same story through different timelines, the same promise to be broken, the same point finger forever looming, red and blue game pieces, Democrats for war, Republicans for war, occupiers unwelcomed, freedom for who, a high price for protection. Where does this leave the poor? In factories designing freedom's apparel for slave wages, privatized rainwater, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Cobra.
There isn't a whole lot of difference between farmers over there defending their land and farmers over here defending their land.
If I were the devil,
The same crowd that speaks out against domestic public assistance seems to have no problem funding ethnic cleansing, a city's abduction, the destruction of a small village. Never again happens again when men pretend to be gods. Faithful followers fed false narratives to look away from undeniable evidence. The worship of warships, flags, malevolence, and hate. The predators pray, praise, in desperation with an unclear mind and polluted spirits, blind to the true gospel of humanity. The good book was never supposed to have an end. It was written and should have kept being written. Lost is a voice of God that those suffering fear no longer listens. Before this barbed wire fence, proud children have arisen above the smoke of gunfire as angels, as snipers strip mothers of motherhood, strip fathers of everything. Now, with nothing to lose, becoming the same kind of threat they would have never been if they would have just been left alone, just had to wave that ruling fist, just needed a little more land, just a little more blood, just a little more. Inquisitions, crusades, superstitions, traditions, religions, occupations, masquerade, man's lust for total control, complete dominance, his cruel intentions. A flower in the desert with children impaled from its thorn stems, on through Jerusalem, on the way to Bethlehem. When men enter God's land with the devil's hand, we cannot pretend it's not happening again. Just because they don't act the same way, live the same way, pray the same way, believe the same things, does not mean they should be removed from their homes, pushed, bullied, exiled, dehumanized, tortured, executed for throwing rocks at oncoming missiles, for children being children, playing soccer, targeted, struck down by Israeli warship, said to be human shield for invisible enemies that don't really exist. A village wakes one morning to a stranger's attack, an act of defense, they fight back. Invader labels those in their own homes terrorists. Stand your ground does not apply to U.S. allies overseas. Men of peace portrayed as beasts. To extend this lie, I ask, what would we do? Never again happens again, and we call this monster our friend, and he calls for peace as he leaves people in pieces. 9/11 times 10 equals blind by media manipulation. We as a nation claim to be against this, a censored truth, a fabrication, a cover-up, an inaccurate telling of events in the wrong sequence. A brave man painted as a savage leader seen as a protector, a group of children seen as invisible, a young doctor said to be radicalized, murdered in cold blood by soldier, a propaganda machine editing her last words of hope and love, labeling fallen angel as one who turned. What are our people supposed to do while being subject to such abuse, persecution in their own land, their only crime, falling into the bullseye of an evil empire in disguise that hides behind horrific atrocities of the past as they commit horrific atrocities of the present, presented as necessary actions against a people not seen as a people, misrepresented by censored truth, fabrication, cover-up, brave men, savage leader, invisible children preserved in ice cream freezer, an ongoing slow genocide, a people's fight bastardized, not in the name of God, in no way justified. Our government has never stopped funding, defending, and committing true acts of terrorism in foreign lands. Our flags should be lowered, our influence should be unheard, our buildings condemned. How do anti-globalists support this? If we want to fight terror, why do we leave the true terrorist alone? We make bad guys out of those that oppose the role of Western puppet trying to preserve their own culture. We divide other nations to take what we want, leaving very little for them. When we open our mouths, we are silenced by self-proclaimed constitutionalists. When we protest this, we are told we are antagonists, extremists against this nation we are trying to hold accountable for what it claims to be. We are empowering evil. We war against good people, quick to be ignored by sleepwalkers, quick to be exiled during homecoming. Men of God, acts of the devil. The truth is not what those semi-comfortable want to believe in. The first edition, not those edited and revised by men, disguised as translators for higher beings speaking for gods below. We have a lot more lessons to learn before we go preaching on mountaintops, looking down at sheep like a hungry wolf. If we really cared, why are we looking at regular people as enemies just because someone on TV told us to? Why are we ignoring those on the front lines unaffiliated with major networks delivering an actual unfiltered truth? Why are we upholding lies told to us, allowing ignorance and prejudice to speak for us? And this is not just about us. This is written with the blood of Vietnam, Hiroshima, Iraq, the first America, before America, Kuwait, Africa, Gaza, Hong Kong, Taiwan, to all those forgotten people of all those forgotten communities, domestic and elsewhere, that have been plagued with famine and disease, unrecognized, unrecorded, demonized, dehumanized, those the world has been trained to see as a life not worth saving but worth less enough to take if standing in the way of so-called progress and the myth of keeping us safe. People are beginning to open their mind, to open their eyes, to open their mouths. Political theater will not silence all of us. True opposition of this mission is still kept out the house. They both play the same game in a different way. Time for a true change. Myth makers are tugging at our heartstring as they are writing scripts for us, believing we think for ourselves as we speak the thoughts of someone else. The truth is something we don't really want to admit when a lie seems so comfortable. We will only reach our destination by learning to walk backwards and follow our instinct, for following our leaders has us falling down the wrong path. We learn to hate the government for the wrong reasons and excuse them for the most unforgivable crimes. We are polarized, hypnotized, mesmerized, bastardized, time to be extradized just by opening our eyes, looking away from every electronic device that we have allowed to control us, the device that told us what to think about each other and taught us how to hate each other. Time to discover new ways to understand how we got here and why we feel what we do. Introduce me to the real you. Who did we pose for as those in the shadows were designing the devil, pitting us against us, extending our leash just far enough to call ourselves free until we discovered actual freedom and were yanked back, then put back in our place, categorized by age, sex, race, anything to divide us, any way to keep us, any way to have us remain the serf serving the wrong lord. We are the main topic of annual secret meetings, the players in a game we never started, the sacrifice of modern-day druids. Tomorrow's war was discussed last year over an extravagant feast over drinks between the same two leaders who were elected before their campaign. Those that were actually put in power by their people fighting for the betterment of their land that would not bend the knee for these deranged kings and queens were not invited to these meetings but plotted against. When a people break from the threshold of division, they will be subtracted. When the people's voice starts to make sense, crisis actors and paid protesters will be sent out to remove all logic. Knee-jerk reactions and subliminal feelings are simple ways of ending positive discussions with negative actions. This is the time of the people. Do not empower the tyrants. Let us not allow so many of the past to die in vain. Let us have their purpose come true, their cause, their life, their love, their legacy, their American dream. The government, the media, the elite, designing the devil for everyone. Designing the devil out of everyone. Never again, already happened again. We were just told not to care.
The constant and indiscriminate bloodshed in Gaza isn't seen as criminal.
write sequels to Bibles and sing the lost gospels. Once we figure that out, we will figure a way out to this and a way back in. We doubt our powers deemed useless by principles of man. We are not a species of slaves, but free spirits. Let's make it to where tomorrow's sons will never fear their father. We are not prey. I pray one day you understand that we are this world's prayer. The devil walks among us. Blend in with the sinner and enlighten hopelessness with confidence. Angels are warning armies not to challenge the heavens. In the sky, glowing lights, spirits shine, of faith unidentified. Heartland, state-of-the-art state of mind. Grains of sand, sculpted humankind. Human being kind, rarely seen at this time. Serpents, still spoken, broken promises, speaking about freeing while masquerading instant enslavement, reading titles but not stories, misinterpretations, misrepresented, misguided. Remove the CGI, replace fiction with what's in front of you. Stop seeing the world through tiny screens glued to palms and look up. A lie discovered. Try again. Subconsciously practicing an enemy's rituals, protecting those once protected from, and feeding those fleeing to lions. Behind them, untrue tales. What have we become? Strangers staring into mirrors, clouded with filters. We remember passwords, but forget our names. Only responding to the ones we've been called.